Hello everybody and welcome back to another video, and thank God the preseason is over. The Canadians ended on a bit of a stinker. They lose 3-1 at home to the Ottawa Senators. Also thank God that nobody got seriously injured in this one. Yeah, I think that was kind of my biggest concern going into the game is, especially with the lineup like mismatch. It wasn't too bad, but I know like we played Hudson, Dobson. We played our top line A, Doc. Like a lot of guys who have the potential and history for injury, especially with how the last game went. I was a little bit concerned about what would happen, but I know Jake Evans left the game early because he blocked a shot off the arm, but it seems like he came back and there wasn't anything too concerning going on there. So, all things considered, I think we got away with that, and it definitely could have been worse. I mean, I don't know if anybody's paying attention to the Florida Tampa like past two games of the preseason, but that has been an absolute bloodbath. So thank God that we don't have to deal with that quite as bad. I mean, the previous game wasn't great, but nobody's seriously injured, as far as I can tell anyway. So that's good. We got out of the preseason with a few injuries, but nothing too major. I mean, Ryan Bacher, obviously, he's out for another 3 weeks, I guess. So, all in all, not terrible compared to where we were after last preseason. So, we'll take it. I'm definitely an advocate of shortening the preseason, getting the season started a little bit earlier, because at this point, like, there's just absolutely no reason for anybody to be playing a preseason game in early October. Like, I think everybody's ready for the season to get started. Like, I don't know how much information teams are really even gathering from these last couple of games anyway, because people are trying to put their players out, but then also it's a whole concern about, like, do we want to put our top players out because what if they get injured, all that kind of stuff. So it's just, yeah, it's too long. Let's get the season underway. So I'm glad that our preseason is over and we are getting underway on Wednesday. In general, tonight I felt like it was one of those kind of like patented Montreal Canadiens games. Especially we saw it a lot the last year, especially early on, like just like having bad starts to games. I feel like that was kind of the way that this one went, and we've been saying it all the past couple of weeks. This is preseason; you can't really like predict too much off of it. I think a lot of guys are still kind of getting their feet under them a little bit, but yeah, it just felt like the first period for sure, and then like we slowly kind of got into it. But yeah, like we were just kind of like not really starting quick. We weren't really playing very like with any urgency or anything like that, and it's just like hopefully that's not something that we're gonna be seeing as the season begins here. Hopefully we get a little bit more of a jump, a little bit more motivated players. But yeah, I thought especially the top line, the Caulfield, Suzuki, Slafkovsky line was just kind of behind it a little bit. And I guess like when you have nothing to play for other than just to kind of tune up before the season starts, maybe you don't play 100%, but hopefully that is the case, and it's not that they're not going to carry that over into our first game on Wednesday, but remains to be seen. And again, it's preseason. What are you going to say? But yeah, I just thought that a lot of our guys were just kind of behind it a little bit. So just a little bit of a disappointing end to the preseason there. But I think the best games are ahead of us, so to speak. So it'll be good to see what happens here. I think we can what we can take away mostly from that is how the lineup is going to look on day one. I think a lot of guys have made some good arguments for themselves. I think the guys who were clearly not fit for it have already kind of moved for either Laval or back to their respective teams or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with our lineups. I think at this point we can probably assume that a lot of the guys that are kind of on the bubble will probably get their chances as injuries or whatever takes place. But I was pretty impressed by a lot of guys. I think I've been talking about this recently. I didn't really know too much about Emil Engstrom, before this current preseason started, but he's been really impressive to me. throughout this preseason, especially today. I thought he had some great chances. I think specifically one, I think maybe was on the power play, but he kind of just went end to end and ended up like splitting the D, got a breakaway out of it, didn't score, but I think it's definitely an impressive play, not a play that you would see a lot of defensemen, especially some of our defensemen on our team make. So for a guy who's kind of fighting for a lineup spot to make a play like that, definitely turned some heads, or at least it would have if it were me making those decisions. So I was really impressed with his game. Florian Jacki, I think you know what you get when you put him on the ice. He's a physical presence, and I think that that's something that the Canadians need. I think Martin St. Louis said himself like the team needs a little bit more grit or bite, or he said something like that. But I would agree with that. So I think they're definitely keeping him around as an option for that aspect of the game, and it's not like he's a chump offensively either. So it'll be interesting. And then Owen Beck and Kapanen, I think that they've kind of like we kind of knew what to expect from them, and they delivered on that for the most part. Neither of them have been particularly exciting for me for the most part. I think as I kind of just said, like we know what to expect from them. We kind of got what we expected, and really nothing more or less. So I'm sure one of them will probably slot into the fourth line, and we'll see how that goes. And then I'm sure they'll probably make some adjustments as needed, depending on if that person is playing well, if they need like a jump from some other guy, or like if they want a more physical presence, they call up Florian Jacki and see how he can impact the game. So I think I would guess that they'll kind of play around with it and just kind of see what sticks, what works, what's gonna help us win games, and what's not. So, but yeah, I think really just all of them kind of did what they were expected to do. Angstrom, I was really impressed by, and Joe Veleno, obviously he's not necessarily in the same echelon as the rest of them, being kind of like a veteran guy, but he was definitely my first star tonight. He was all over the place, fighting for like he was the one who looked like he wanted to win that game, and he was fighting for his spot in the lineup. So. He was super impressive. Obviously, he got that save there, like when they had a point blank opportunity. Montembeault was kind of out of the net, and he was able to kind of step in and make a save. He had some offensive chances as well. I think a 2-on-1, some chances there. So he was definitely he had the legs that really nobody else on the Canadians had tonight. So I was really impressed with his game. I think. If it wasn't already locked, I think he's definitely locked up a slot on the opening night roster. I think that'll be good. I think again, like I've said this before, but I didn't think when he got claimed on, or not claimed, like when we signed him in free agency, I didn't really expect him to have as big of a role as it seems like he's going to have. I didn't think that he'd be a guy who would like crack the roster. Maybe we'd trade him or something like that by this point in the season. But he's really been impressive, in my opinion. I mean, he's not going to be like a game changer, like first line guy or whatever. But he seems like he's going to be a quality guy who can play like the bottom 6 minutes, and maybe get us some depth scoring and that kind of stuff, and just kind of give us a little bit of grit, that kind of stuff. So I've generally been impressed pretty much every time he's gotten on the ice in preseason. He's looked really solid, and I think he's definitely locked up his roster spot. And then moving on to kind of the more core roster players, again, like I think all of the core players just were kind of slow today. I just like they definitely picked it up in the back half of the game, but it was a little bit like too little, too late. Caulfield scored one off of like a rebound. Suzuki kind of like spun and shot it on net. He was able to kind of just barely squeak it in. It only really got like a couple inches over the line, but it counts. So good for him to get on the score sheet. I think he had a goal in the only other game that he was in preseason for. So that's a good sign, at least that Cole's got his scoring touch still, if nothing else. So It'll be interesting to see how he performs the start of the season. Caulfield, considering how last year started, he was kind of in kind of the rocket race for the first month or so of the season. He was leading the league in goals a couple times early on. Obviously, Draisaitl and other guys kind of pulled away. They've got a lot more help, and they're just kind of natural. I mean, you can't really. It's hard to beat Draisaitl at scoring goals, especially when he's got McDavid making him passes, at least for now. Um, but yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how he plays, and definitely he's got Dobson now. He can be getting passes from him, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he plays. Suzuki and Slav, they again they're just kind of whatever. I mean, Suzuki, I'm very confident. If nobody, if there's one person on our roster that I'm confident in being able to turn it on and have a good season, I think it's Suzuki. He's just been super consistent ever since he got to Montreal. So I'm not really concerned about his play. I'm sure he'll be able to figure that out. And then Slavkovsky, I think they've been talking about it on the TV broadcast and stuff like that. But it's very true that Slavkovsky needs to have a good fast start to his season. The past pretty much his entire time in the NHL, he really has not had a good start to the season. He just coasts the start, and then in the back half of the season kind of picks it up and gets all of his points there. But if we can find a way to get second half Slav for both halves of the season, then we'd really have something that would be a huge boost for that top line and the team overall. So it'd be interesting to see how he starts the season. I thought he had an okay game. He was he had some turnovers a little bit. He was able to force some turnovers in the offensive zone, make some plays. He almost had one. I think he just kind of missed a pass on the power play. But yeah, I think it would just be all about how he's able to start, mentality wise, just being able to go out and get that first goal or something like that early would be good, just to kind of give him a confidence boost, and hopefully that'll get him a good head start into the season. So it'd be interesting to see overall how that first line plays this season. I think it'll be definitely a big factor in whether or not this team is going to the playoffs again or not, is how that line is going to play. Those are our top guys, the guys we expect a lot out of. So it'll definitely be interesting to watch and see how they start on Wednesday and then into the first couple of weeks of the season. And then as for the rest of the team, I thought Line actually had a pretty solid game today. He looked like he was moving a little bit quicker. He was making some good skating plays. He's always got he's one of the most interesting players I've ever seen play this version of Line. Just he always just looks so slow out there. He looks like he's the slowest player in the world, but then just nobody can take the puck off this guy. He's got the hands. He's got he's 6'4", so the good luck getting the puck off of this guy. So it's just bizarre to see him. He's just moving so slow, but you can't take the puck off of him. And once he gets ahead of steam, he can make some chances happen. And obviously I'll say it, I think Patrick Laine might have the best shot in the NHL. I mean, he definitely doesn't have the same pieces that some other guys like Matthews or Draisaitl have in terms of mobility or anything like that. But if he gets set up and gets a clean look at the net, I don't know if there's many people in the league at all that can shoot the way he can. So it'll be interesting to see how he performs. Obviously we didn't have him to start the beginning of last season, so it'll be interesting to see how a full off season and then being able to start the season with the team affects his outcomes. Not only on the power play, which we've come to know him as kind of a specialist there, but on 5-on-5 play, it'll be interesting to see how that works. It'll also be interesting to see if he starts on the second line with Demidov. I don't really think that it worked very well in the preseason, but as we've been saying, it's hard to say from preseason what's actually going to work or not. But it didn't really feel like it worked very well, just because of the lack of speed and just Line just not necessarily being the strongest 5-on-5 player. But maybe that'll change once the regular season gets underway. He finds a new gear, a little bit more motivation. So it'll be interesting to see what those lineups look like and where he slots in and how that is going to affect his production on 5-on-5 play in the regular season. Defensemen today, I thought were okay. I mean, we've only seen 2 preseason games worth of Noah Dobson, but he looks fine. I think people are kind of nitpicking a lot of the plays he makes. When he makes mistakes, people are more critical of him than other players, especially considering we just traded for him, we paid him a bunch of money, so it makes sense that you would be critical. But I thought overall he played fine. I mean, I know at the end of the game there he kind of bobbled a pass and tried to pinch, and all that stuff led to an empty net goal the other way, kind of sealed the deal for the Senators. But I think just another guy. I think he's just gonna have to find a new footing once the regular season starts. But I think overall, I think the expectations for Dobson are gonna have to just be tempered a little bit. I don't think that in the system that we have right now, he's going to be that 70-point guy that he was in Long Island 2 seasons ago. I especially with Lane Hudson being on power play one, I don't really see him being able to produce the same way. But what we can see and expect from him is just being a solid first pairing defenseman, eating a lot of minutes, kind of like what we've been seeing from Mike Matheson previously. It just having another guy there that can just eat the minutes, make smart plays, make smart offensive plays, contribute to scoring, making good passes and that kind of stuff. I think in Long Island with the Islanders, I think he was kind of leaned on a lot, for what it seems like anyway, as kind of like that offensive defenseman guy. So I think for him, I think being in our system, we have Hudson and that kind of stuff. That's gonna he's gonna have to spread the wealth a little bit. I think that will be good for him, just because he's not the only offensive defenseman that people are looking to produce from the back end. So I think it will affect his point outcomes, but I think people should just kind of expect him to be more of just a solid D-man with some offensive upside. And I think if we can get him to produce at like 50 points or 40 points or whatever, but Lane Hudson also has 60 points or something like that, like he had last year. I think that will be a successful season for us if he's able to just kind of take the load off Hudson. Hudson could take the load off of him in terms of offensive output from the back end. And I think that will be good for everybody there. But I think in terms of expectations, just I think people are expecting him to kind of wow everybody with their offensive upside and making crazy plays and scoring goals, that kind of stuff. I don't I'm sure over the course of the season we'll see a few goals from Dobson. I think he's been proving that throughout his career in Long Island that he's capable of doing that. I'm sure we'll see it a few times, but I think we should expect that that will kind of be shared. The wealth will be shared between some of our other D-men, which is a good thing. That we have multiple offensive D-men who can all produce. I think you'll look at the point totals, you might not see that he's super high up there, but I think at the end of the day will be good for the team. And then we also got to see another full game of Montembeault, which is good. I think the score would indicate that he maybe didn't play so great, but I thought that he made a bunch of good saves throughout the game. Obviously our forwards, our offense wasn't really able to generate too much. It led to a bunch of chances the other way. I thought he made some solid saves. The goals that he got scored on were whatever. It was a 2-on-1, and the other one was kind of a tip in the slot, so not really his fault. It looked like definitely a better showing than what we saw from him in his first preseason game, so that is definitely encouraging. I would expect that he would probably start a majority of our games this season, but who knows? I mean, I think what we can take from this preseason in terms of our goaltending situation is that we have really good options. I mean, we have Dobesh, who got a shutout in the previous game. Fowler played really well, although it looks like he's going to be playing as a starter in the AHL in Laval. But we have options all over the place. I mean, Kakinen is also there. I think Dobesh and Fowler are probably better, but it looks like, like we have some options to kind of take the load off of Montembeault if it's not working well or if he's just getting fatigued and stuff. So that's always a good thing to see. So yeah, that wraps the preseason there and on to the regular season. I will be here throughout the entirety of the regular season starting on Wednesday. So I hope to catch people there. And yeah, I will see you guys on Wednesday for the first game.